Uh, Thanks, Kenneth, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you very much for the opportunity that you afforded us to share our vision for the future. Future shapers, change makers, problem solvers, fellow visionaries, I welcome you all to this very important gathering. As Kenneth told you, my name is Kevin Ayabare, and I just finished my degree in statistics, but most importantly, I am a context observer and analyst of our society and a contributor and social commentator and public speaker also, who believes that Uganda has the potential to launch into the future from gatherings like this one. Today we are gathered here to discuss how Western colonial exit strategies have kept the African in a dependency trap that is stagnating growth. This African mindset was inherited and has led to underutilization of its very real potential. But we must ask ourselves a more important question today. Will this be another gathering on which we put on our best clothes and share coffee and take pictures and smile to each other and live without a real vision for change? Or will this be the moment, the pore, through which new blood is injected into the clogged veins of our economy? And will the future be launched from here? As you look outside, the sun seems to shine very brightly above us, but very many of us remain trapped under a cloud of darkness and illusion. We're at war, but we seem not to see our enemy. We're playing a game of football, but against our own selves. We pass the ball toward our very own goalpost and follow our own teammates as those on the other side happily fund our self-destruction. In a way, very sadly, Africa seems to be working against their own interests. Today we are here to confront the sobering truth. Though the African may appear on the outside as liberated, his mind remains ensnared in the designs of his former colonial masters. The education system that we inherited, for example, contextually irrelevant, strategically misaligned, still thrives in our institutions. What future, for example, are we building if we are admitting 250 students into a single economics program, knowing full well that 5, perhaps, all less will ever have the title economist? Well, fellow countrymen and countrywomen, this was not by accident. It was part of a choreography, a colonial exit strategy designed to ensure we remained a garden of raw material, but not architects of systems. Up to this very day, Africa feeds the neoliberal machine of the West. Our minerals, our oil, our labor, fertilize foreign development. And what do we get in return? The leftovers, donations, debt, used goods, hazardous waste, negative connotation. We can go on and on. Africa has long served as the world's resource garden, holding 30% of world's minerals, yet generating only 40% of the revenue it could from the very substantial critical reserves that it holds. Let's take, for example, we supply 57% of global cobalt, 44% of chromite, 21% of gold, powering everything from smartphones to satellite to the new tech revolution. These resources come from us, and they're driving the changes that are shaping the future today. And what do we get in return? We get waste. Take an example of Ghana, which received over 250,000 tons of e-waste annually and this is according to a report by Bloomberg in 2023. In Kenya, 40% of second-hand clothes end up as textile waste, dumped and unsellable. And that's according to Greenpeace in their 2020 report. Well, despite producing over 20% of global cotton, Africa processes less than 5% into textiles. And the World Bank says that. This is the cycle. Extract, export, and inherit the trash. This is the sobering truth. This is the loop where Africa supplies the raw, others gain the profit, and we receive the residue. This is the truth that we must confront. So, how do startups fit in all of this? Well, one of the greatest delusions we face is the obsession with startups themselves, as though building a startup is an end in itself. But a startup is not a goal in itself. It is a means. Startups should all, because problems exist that need to be solved for the good life of the majority of our people. Not because we want to mimic Silicon Valley or anything. Well, fellow countrymen and countrywomen, we marvel at complex innovations from the West, but ignore the simple, solvable problems all around us. This can be compared to 1,000 people racing into a room of only 500 kilograms of gold while leaving 1,000 tons of bronze in the vastness they're living outside. We have inherited a mindset of competition and imitation. We chase trends. But as long as the startup ecosystem is not grounded in the moral North Star of solving real problems for real people, I'm sorry that you have to hear this from me, but it will collapse. Startups will fail. Investors will grow cynical. Citizens will lose hope. The dependency will continue till time eternal. Here's some uncomfortable math. Of the $2.2 billion in startup funding raised across Africa in 2024, over 80% came from abroad. That's according to the International Finance Corporation. We're still externally funded, externally validated, and very sadly, my fellow countrymen and countrywomen, externally steered. And yet, Africa's own pension funds, our largest institutional investors, hold over $420 billion. If we mobilize just 5% of these through de-risked, well-governed investment vehicles, we could unlock $20 billion annually for sustainable enterprises. That's 10 times the amount that we are receiving now. And the irony goes deeper. From 1970 to 2018, capital flight from Africa totaled over $2 trillion. $2 trillion. And that excludes the $400 billion in interest income we could have earned on it. Meanwhile, our total external debt, if you could imagine, our external debt stock stood at $746 billion. That's 3 times the flight that went out. That's 3 times the capital that left Africa to go outside. And that's according to Boston University's Global Development Policy Center. Well, this is the irony. What this makes Africa is, in fact, a net creditor to the world. Africa is a net creditor to the world. But how do we see this? This is why these are very important gatherings, because this is a moment for reckoning. We are not poor. We are just poorly organized. If we want to change the narrative, we must start with context. Now, this is one of the most beautiful English words, context. This is the birthplace of real innovation, context. Let us build a national discourse around the good life. Do our people have access to water, healthcare, food, shelter? These are not side issues. These are the market. They are the opportunity. They are the reason we innovate. Government, academia, industry, civil society, every one of these players, and mostly the triple helix, government, academia, industry, they should align around a common North Star, the good life of majority of our impoverished people. When this happens, for the 60% of Ugandans living below $3 per day, according to the World Bank, here's the good news, my fellow countrymen and countrywomen. When this happens, startups will emerge not for mimicry, but for meaning. Capital flows not for hype, but for relevance. As we stay in this moment of reckoning and understand that this is not the end of this, but just the beginning, we should understand that we do not lack resources. No, we lack organization, we lack coordination, we lack cohesion, we lack a blueprint that works. But that can change, and that's the good news Startup Funding Vehicles is bringing to you all today. This is not doomsday, and I'm not a prophet of doom. I'm just stating the reality, which is the opportunity, and this is the discussion that SFV is steering forward. What we need is a shift, not just in policy, but in perception, mindset. Let us stop chasing foreign blueprints. Let us design our own, rooted in the problems that we know best, guided by the good that we wish to see. This is the case that SFV is making before you today. And this is the trajectory is trying to onboard each one of you in this room. SFV is not just looking to bridge the gap between investors and innovators. They are seeing the untapped potential a country like Uganda sits on, and taking the lead on shaping the conversation and framing a context-aligned innovation and investment campus for the Africa of tomorrow and its startup industry. Well, if you share in this vision, fellow countrymen and countrywomen, here's a team of like-minded visionaries, startup funding vehicles, launching us into the future. This is what SFV is doing now. We are being launched into the future, and you either get on board or you're left behind. This is the launchpad for the future of Africa's startup industry. This is the moment in which we can have a spark of new fire, and we can take our future in our own hands. Thank you all for listening.
Are you ready? That I said your name and I felt like I was at my home. But that clap was not for granted, was not just for just. It's because you shook the crowds. And thank you very much for that wonderful speech. At this juncture, there is even an extra hand, an extra clap I have noticed somewhere. All right, at this juncture, allow me usher you into startup funding vehicles. Certainly you're out there and you're wondering, what is startup funding vehicles? What are you talking about? What are you launching today? And at this time, we are going to quickly run through the presentation of startup funding vehicles that we shall launch with a brief speech from Ministry of Trade. The PS is very well represented, who is our guest of honor tonight or this evening. And so after this, the presentation about startup funding vehicles, we can have the representative launch After that, we shall continue with the next speeches. As you can notice, we are doing a mix, so we need to keep rejuvenated of why we need to take this conversation to another level. I request